For my mental health promotion video, I wanted to discuss rape culture on college campuses and its impact that it has on the mental health of students. Firstly, let's define what is rape culture. Rape culture is defined as the social environment that allows sexual violence to be normalized and justified. This can be fueled by gender inequalities, sexist attitudes towards gender and sexuality, protected by patriarchal beliefs, and this is through social media. This can be through our legal system. This can also be through education. Overall, they all come together to fester what is rape culture. Some examples of rape culture include victim blaming, so questions such as what were they wearing, why were they out so late, questioning parts of a victim's story, questioning why they don't remember certain things. Those are all under victim blaming. Another example is inappropriate jokes or language. This includes um, jokes that can be online, comments, locker room talk. All of those things kind of trivialize sexual violence and make light of sexual harassment. Another example is catcalling and normalizing sexual harassment. This also includes stalking, it includes inappropriate comments, as listed before, and also using gender stereotypes as justification for sexual assault. This can be things such as boys will be boys, or boys can't control themselves, or girls have to keep themselves safe, or girls mature faster than boys. All of these statements kind of place the onus of safety onto women and that they need to keep themselves safe against people versus teaching perpetrators not to assault people or not to harass people. This leads me into how rape culture is enabled on college campuses. The pyramid here, this is the rape culture pyramid. It starts on the lower level with things that are included in normalization. So these are things such as non-consent videos or photos, sexist attitudes, rape jokes, locker room banter, things that are included under the normalization of rape culture. And then it leads into more dangerous situations in which you have degradation, you have assault, possible drugging, molestation. And this just kind of shows how each of these examples kind of topple on each other to further perpetuate rape culture in the sense that it starts off as something that may not be as severe but can end in a very dangerous situation for survivors. Um, and this also includes another thing that I think is important to talk about is that this also includes songs that have lyrics that perpetuate non consent or sexual violence. I know personally there are a lot of songs out there that have lyrics that kind of perpetuate instances of drugging, instances of non consent, instances of sexual harassment or violence under the guise of finding someone attractive or wanting to talk to someone. And a lot of times we say, we listen to these songs and we don't really understand the meaning behind it. But when you look at the lyrics and you actually pair it to some of the things on this pyramid, it lines up that a lot of these songs have a lot of negative stereotypes against women and they often perpetuate rape culture on its own. Now I wanted to discuss the impacts of rape culture on mental health. These are just three impacts, but there are plenty more. A lot of times, rape culture is combined with the feelings of the survivor. So how they feel about their assault, how they feel after it, how they feel about seeking help, if they're able to seek help, and this kind of leads into increased mental health crises. So, rape culture in itself fosters a very hostile and negative environment for survivors of sexual violence, which then increases the prevalence of mental health crises and challenges such as anxiety, excessive stress, depression, paranoia. This also reinforces silence among survivors. So, because rape culture is such a hostile environment, it often reinforces victim blaming and discourages survivors from speaking out or seeking help. This also means seeking help and seeking access to mental health services that, are out there for them, but because victim blaming is such an important factor in rape culture and it's often so ingrained, it can discourage survivors from actually attempting to seek out help. And this also leads into normalizing violence, in which rape culture fosters the normalization of violence and not all kinds of violence, so physical violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, and can increase feelings of stress, paranoia, anxiety, and depression. And these are just some of the impacts that it can have on your mental health. A lot of times, the survivor will have various impacts on their physical and mental well being, and a lot of them stem from their access to help, whether that's their access to treatment, access to health services, access to reporting options. Um, a lot of those things are determined by rape culture and how that's perpetuated specifically on campus. And then lastly, I wanted to discuss how we can help. Because a lot of times when we discuss things such as rape culture or how to prevent sexual assault or sexual harassment, there isn't much about how we as students or as an everyday person, how we can help in that system. The first thing and the most important thing is to create a culture of belief. So simply creating an environment in which survivors are believed can remind them that they are, one, not alone, and two, that there is help available. And this leads into my second point of promoting mental health resources specifically on campus. I think this is extremely important, especially on colleges, because there are a lot of mental health resources on campus that a lot of students may not know of, and that's directly tied to promotion. So, sharing information about mental health services, sharing what kind of clubs or organizations that support survivors on campus, sharing and putting that information out there can give power back to survivors and encourage them to seek help. Another topic is getting involved. So getting involved in these groups, getting involved in these organizations that support survivors increases the visibility of these programs, which is so needed to getting survivors access to the help that they need. And the last one is challenging harmful stereotypes. So, as stated before throughout this presentation, rape culture is perpetrated by harmful stereotypes. So, speaking out against victim blaming, inappropriate jokes, dismissive attitudes towards sexuality and gender, all of these things can help combat harmful stereotypes towards survivors and, as a whole, rape culture. These are just some of the sources that I found, and these are also some articles that I think are important to look through. And thank you for listening.